You found yourself on another episode of Locked on Bulls. In today's episode, me and Pat are going to break down the Bulls going 2-0 over the last week, especially that big win against Houston. And saw Patrick Beverley has his best game as a Bull. We're also going to talk about the 15 remaining regular season games for the Chicago Bulls and ask, is it more important, or what does a playoff berth mean for the Chicago Bulls? We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are Locked on Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked on Bulls, member of the Locked on Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. And Pat, the Bulls gotten a couple of nice wins. The game against the Houston Rockets was a good team win. It was good to see the team, rally and stay, keep it close against a team that was just younger than them, that was just shooting lights out at one point. And the Bulls weathered the storm. Big energy game by Pat Bev that really helped turn the tide there. Of course, big games from our big three players as well. What did you make of the Bulls' last win over the Rockets?
I felt like it was a win they were supposed to get. I feel like they won the game in a fashion that a lot of teams have won their games against the Rockets against, right? Against the Rockets, I should say. Because the Rockets are a team that, listen, they come out, they shoot a ton of threes. I will say this. There were a lot of people that were very critical of Billy Donovan during the game. I watch Twitter and stuff like that, even while I'm live calling the game during the game. A lot of people were upset about Billy Donovan's game plan. Why are you protecting the paint when they're shooting at a high clip from the three-point line? They shoot literally, they make 10 of every 30 three-pointers that they shoot. So I understood what they were going into with game plan here. Houston was hitting that shot at a ridiculously higher rate, but I think it goes even bigger than that, right? Again, we saw Zach LaVine step up and be the best player on the Chicago Bulls for another game. We saw Zach LaVine come out and be a dominant player on a night-in, night-out basis again for the Chicago Bulls. And on top of that, we saw we saw DeMar DeRozan, while taking a back seat, playing more of a Spurs role in this situation, lead to the success of the Chicago Bulls. And so, Haize, I have to ask you this question. From that Houston game, and we've seen this a couple of times. We actually talked about it on this channel.
Mm-hmm.
If you see DeMar DeRozan take on more of a Spurs role, like he did in that Houston game, would you want to keep DeMar DeRozan on the Chicago Bulls moving forward? Is that a recipe for the Chicago Bulls to win? Of course, right, we know the things that have to be resolved with the point guard position, but is that more of a recipe for the Chicago Bulls to win with another guy that can go out and get a bucket, but maybe give you 7 assists, 8 assists a game, 6 rebounds, 19, 20 points?
I would say yes and no. The yes part is the part that's clear, is how him being a facilitator, his ability to get to either the free throw line or hit tough shots, especially when Zach is on the bench. Those are all important, but I'm still looking at it from a critical mindset in the sense that we have so much that we need to add to this team, and that DeMar DeRozan still offers the best option to go out and get some of those things and just open up enough salary cap as well as roster spots to get that done. So the play style that DeMar's playing, absolutely, but it would force AK to get more creative in how he's going to fill out this roster. We do have 5 free agents now. We got Vooch, Io, Kobe, Javante, and Pat Bev, all free agents. So unless you really plan on not bringing 4 out of those 5 players back and maybe moving to Caruso, which at that point it's like, all right,
we're seeing what we saw.
Yeah, we're still seeing what we saw. So there's a world in which yes, DeMar, but my thing is also we talked about having to insulate this roster against Billy Donovan, and I still think having DeMar DeRozan on this roster will always make the chance that Billy Donovan still goes heavy reliance on DeMar DeRozan rather than trusting other players. So I'm kind of of two minds about it, bro. I have to see it continue to go on for the rest of the season. I can see the validity and it going either way, but right now, it does offer something. And I will say this: with DeMar playing more of a Spurs type role on here, it does make the level and caliber of point guard that you need to go out and get a little bit less. So, I mean, there's a world in which it happens. You keep DeMar, you keep Pat Bev, and then you kind of figure out the rest of the roster spots, especially if they do end up getting a designated player exception for Lonzo Ball. That's an additional $10 million exception that they can use. So it does open some things up. So
here's the tough part I think that you have to have the conversation with on that. Are you willing to move on from Io and Kobe? That's something we haven't talked about, where the possibility of both of them moving on. But as much as I love what Kobe White is becoming, I love the fact that in one offseason he's turned himself into a better player, in my opinion, right? I can't pass the ball to Kobe White on a wide open three and expect him to knock that down. I can't do the same thing with Io DeSumo. As much as I love Io's defense that he brings to the game, when he's playing at a high level, right? I thought he played a little bit better in that Houston game. I thought his defense was better versus Jalen Green and stuff like that. But I feel like there is a world where you can talk about moving on from both of those young players in order to bring in shooters to open up those roster spots. The hard part that comes in with that is that you now are saying there's a 23-year-old and there's two 23-year-olds on my team that I drafted that I'm willing to move on from. But to me, right, like, I think the point guard position is the biggest position here. And I think that the fact that we're talking about a big three that I saw continuously, and I've seen continuously kind of along this stretch, that has kicked the ball out to Kobe and Io for wide open shots. And they have not been able to produce on those wide open shots. I'm not talking about closing out contested. I'm talking about shots that are so open that the defense is just like, we just got to try and get a rebound because we're not going to make it out to them. Yeah. And so I think that might be a scenario you might be in where I feel like our mindset is you have to keep one or the other. It might be you got to move on from both of them and bring in guys that fit a role that fits your team better.
I mean, here's the thing. I do think that AK, whether right or wrong, has a lot of the stigma that isn't really, it shouldn't completely be on him, but I don't think that AK wants to see young players go away and blossom somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I don't see a world in which they let both Kobe and Io go. I do think that that decision between them is coming into the season. I thought it's Io. Kobe may be the odd man out. Honestly, and I asked this question over in Chicago Bulls Central, at this point, I believe in Kobe White's upside more than I do Io DeSumo. I'm going to trust Kobe's ability to learn to hit an open shot better. And honestly, with the way that Kobe now plays defense, the gap is still a gap between Io and Kobe defensively, but that gap is so much narrower now. But with Kobe White's offensive upside, even if he is streaky, if you do change this roster in enough meaningful ways, and to the way to where every eighth game where Kobe White is having a huge scoring output, I think Kobe may be the pick there, man. And I do think if we do bring both of them back, that means Alex Caruso's gone. And that is another option on the Bulls table as well there.
Bulls have a ton of options, but I think the thing is, right, the main thing that I love about what we're seeing coming from Houston and Pat Bev's big output, right, and we can't, is that you're just asking for one guy to be the other guy. Yeah. Who's the other guy that's going to score outside of Zach Vooch and DeMar? And I think that the fact that Pat Bev is showing you that shows the importance that was placed on Lonzo Ball in this lineup. You can't trust that he's going to come back. You can't trust that even if he is back, he's going to remain back. He's going to be healthy in the long term. You already know the first injury that comes after that, even if it's a minor thing, is going to turn into, oh my God, Lonzo Ball can't stay healthy for anything. He's never going to be able to be a good player on this team. I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. But I do think that you have to go into next season and try and figure out your point guard position at most, because you're seeing the effect that it's having on the rest of your team. You're seeing the effect that it had on DeMar DeRozan throughout that game, on Zach LaVine throughout these last few games, right? And how Vooch has been able to be effective. And on top of all of that, just having one other dude that can go out there and be able to knock down a shot. Now, by the way, I need to say this. I don't know if Pat Bev knows this. We figured this out over on the Windy City Breeze. I am clipping up shots that I am live calling that also go with his game. When he kicks his right leg out, he misses every three-pointer. When he keeps his leg tucked in,
like that.
Bro, when he keeps his leg tucked in, legit, when he kept his leg tucked in and shot it, I said, he made it. and then the ball would go in. I'm telling you, it happened every single time. So, Pat Bev, listen, keep the right leg tucked in. You'll be able to knock down the shot. I hope to get credit on your podcast when you become a 38% three-point shooter for the rest of your career.
I'm going to ask you this question.
Let's do it.
Lonzo Ball has this third surgery. The timeline isn't as clear. Let's say they 6-month recovery timeline is already outlined, but the doctors tell him are thinking Lonzo is probably not going to play this season. If he does, maybe he comes back with 20 games left. At that point, you have a season and 20 games left on Lonzo Ball's contract. If a team is willing to take Lonzo Ball, let's say a team does sign Kobe White, and we aren't re-signing, but we try to incentivize a sign and trade. If they're willing to take on Lonzo Ball's contract, and what they want back is they're willing to take back a protected 2030 first-round pick, do you do that to free up the salary for the Chicago Bulls?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the players that I'm worried about in 2030 are the players that I'm worried about in 2023.
That's
whatever
fair.
it is. You know what I mean? Like, if Zach LaVine is still cooking by then, shout out to him. I hope to God he is. I hope that he lives up to be this player. But right now, I'm worried about what the current 5-year contract under Zach LaVine looks like in his time here at the Chicago Bulls. And what I've seen with what he's been able to build up with just having a point guard in place. Like, you're in cap space hell right now because there's $20 million they can't get on the court.
And that can be separated into two very high quality bench players if you look at things. So, and again, I hope that I hope if he does get this surgery, that the doctor's like, we finally feel like we got it figured out. Lonzo's going to get out there. He's going to be like, hey man, I'm feeling good after that 6 months. And then this conversation changes. But as long as there's that uncertainty, you have to kind of leave exploring those options open. And we'll see if the Chicago Bulls do that. But next up, we're going to talk about the 15 regular season games left on the Chicago Bulls season. But before we do that, I got to talk to you guys about Prize Picks. I don't know about you, but the way that Zach LaVine has been scoring lately, I'm taking the over. If the over-under on Zach is anything below 30, I am taking the over every game for the rest of the season. And you can do that on Prize Picks. How does it work? You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they're going to score more or less than the Prize Pick projections, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. This includes NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, WNBA, esports, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign-up for instant deposit match up to $100. All right, Pat. The Bulls are peaking seemingly at the right time, but we got a hellacious schedule coming up over the next couple of weeks. It does not get easy. So we start off Wednesday against Sacramento, who right now is the second team overall in the Western Conference. We then have Minnesota and Miami. And then next week, we got 2 games against Philly, Monday and Wednesday, Portland and the Lakers, all teams that are either in that play-in area or playoff spots, I think, except Portland. How important is it that the Bulls I've been saying they have to have an 85 at least % win rate over these next games. Well, what do you think about this next upcoming schedule for the Bulls?
Here's the tough part. These are the games the Bulls win. So what are the real Bulls? If the Bulls go on to win at 85%, what are the real Bulls? If the Bulls go on and beat some of these big name teams, here's the best part about this, right? Teams you named outside of the Sixers. I think we lost to the Sixers. We only played them once this year, right?
We beat the Sixers.
No, we beat
they
the Sixers.
Embiid, remember?
Did we lose to them with Embiid? We only played them once. I don't remember.
We only played them once.
We only played them once, right? So we got them twice here. Outside of the Sixers, maybe we split with the Sixers. We beat Miami.
Now, that would be our first time ever beating the Sixers with Embiid. You still think we can split with the Sixers?
Possibly.
Okay.
I think, right, like, because of what we've seen from the Bulls. Bulls-Lakers is going to be a dogfight.
Oh, that especially since they won't
Two
have LeBron.
defensive teams.
Yeah, that's going to be and the Lakers, they
Now
actually
you got them
overtook
twice.
us. The Lakers have now the #1 defense since the All-Star break, which is bananas, and that's a large part. I saw the plus minuses of like Jared Vanderbilt being on the court versus often. It's crazy how literally one player who is just amazing at defense and very versatile there is such a better defensive team with him on the court. But I'm sorry, I hijacked that.
And the fact that they were with Malik Beasley, right? They're just able to knock down the 3 ball at a high clip. I'm trying to see here. We've lost to the Clippers this season, but it was a 108-103 game. So you got Clippers. That could be a competitive game. Lakers could be a competitive game.
Pat Bev already talked about what he wants to do to Russell Westbrook. So
I mean, you already know this, right? And Bulls Blazers competitive game. Hornets. That's the game we might lose. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I'm saying, right? Like, so as we're coming down the stretch, you got Hawks, you got Bucks, these are teams that the Chicago Bulls have beat throughout this season. Now the Mavericks is a little bit different. They didn't have Kyrie, they didn't have Luka in that first game for sure, but. I don't think that it's far-fetched to say that the Bulls finish out this schedule with a winning record. I don't know if it'll be 85%, but I don't think it's far-fetched to say that the Bulls finish out this schedule with a winning record. And if they do finish out this schedule with a winning record, the question I have for you is, how do you navigate it? Because this is legit the toughest part of the schedule that we've seen for the Chicago Bulls. And if they finish winning above 500, there's going to be a lot of people that feel good.
And I've said this over on Chicago Bulls Central, is that if the Bulls have a winning record over these last 15 games with the teams that they have on the schedule, they're going to be primed for a play-in tournament. They're going to come in playing. They would have to come in playing their best basketball of the season. They'd have to have some hell of a confidence because this last part of the schedule was not easy at all. And, you know, just when you talk about playing a lot of teams that are either play-in or playoff caliber teams, that puts you in a situation mentally where you're now going into the play-in tournament like, hey, yeah, we got such and such in front of us. We just beat Denver like 2 weeks ago. So,
we think that, though, but we've seen the Bulls beat Milwaukee and lose to Indiana.
True, but that's why I'm saying it going into the play-in tournament, because at that point, you're playing all teams that are above you, right? So we go into the play-in tournament, at least where it's slated right now, we're either facing Miami, Atlanta, or Toronto. And those are teams that we have beaten all those teams. We've also lost against all those teams, if I'm not mistaken. In
I don't think we've lost against Miami this year.
I think so. I know we won against them in the first game this season.
I'll check.
So the Bulls can definitely go into that with some confidence. It just, I mean.
And that's the problem. That's the problem. The fact that we can go. The confidence
part is the problem.
The problem is that we can go,
Oh, yeah. I mean.
You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where you're sitting there and the fact that you're saying.
We actually have won both games against
We've won both games against Miami. I just looked at that. We beat Miami both times. It's the fact that you can say, oh, by the way, we dropping that news on here. Speaking of Bulls versus Miami, we dropping that news here.
What?
That will be in attendance for that one.
Oh,
so pull up on us. Pull up on us. Yeah, I mean, but I think, you know, like when you look at a lot of these teams going down this final stretch in these 15 games, the most important stretch for the Chicago Bulls season, of course, because it's the end of the season. But at the same time, what does that mean? If you finish at an 85% clip, how many wins that put you at? You finish with 44 wins?
I don't get paid to do math here.
I think you finished with 44 wins. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, because that would be 90%.
No. That would be a 90% clip. That'd be a 90% clip. So we would finish with
looking at going in about
42 wins, something like that. 42 wins.
Above 500.
Above 500. What does that mean for you moving forward? What does that mean for this team? You've now had one season where you were well above 500. You have one season where you're 2 games above 500. What does that mean for you going into this playoffs? What is that? Right? Like, I think that's the real question that you have to ask going into this offseason with this team, because the one thing that we all can agree on is that's not going to get you to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
So you're still a long way away from the end goal. As much as the end goal for us this year was a second round exit or a third or a conference finals exit, the NBA Finals is the goal. And you're still a long way away from the NBA Finals, in my opinion. You might get to a 7-game series. Maybe you get lucky and get to the second round. But the goal here is to win a championship. And we're nowhere near that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what it does potentially is like it helps kind of leave a better taste in your mouth, maybe leave the season with a little bit more confidence as you were able to rally on the back half of that season. But it
Yeah.
doesn't change what needs to happen this offseason. We need some wholesale changes to this roster this offseason.
I agree. I agree. I think that's the biggest thing. But does it change your perspective on where those changes come from?
No.
Right? We've said DeMar for a long time.
No. Doesn't change mine. I'm just being honest.
I mean, I'm not mad at it, right? I think the point guard position is the biggest spot. I've said that most of the season. I don't think it changes where we're at by 15 games, right? Like I don't think we're at the top of the Eastern Conference. But I do think that the fact that you ran most of the season without a point guard, and the second you saw a dude that literally is just like, I play point guard, come in, we see the best of Zach LaVine the entire time, says a lot. We see the best probably that we've seen from DeMar DeRozan the entire time, says a lot. So I think that there's something to be said about where you go into this offseason and what your thinking is. I'll tell you this, we might have a long offseason.
It's going to be definitely a long offseason. That's all I can say. It's about to be a long offseason play.
Hey, man, all I know is March isn't going to be that bad, man. And you want to know why? Because Built Bar has March Madness in their blood. The Built March Madness bracket is here. We know that you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's your time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. You know I'll be voting for the churro Built Bar Puff. Stop playing with it. It's the best flavor that they got on the market right now. And if you want the Chicago Bulls to win, then the Built Bar Puff to win, then you'll be voting for that bar too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for Built Bar or the Puff, you will be entering into a drawing where 50 Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built Bar. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bar or puff delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built. Built's the best protein bar ever. I'm not even joking, y'all. This is not even a part of the ad read. I eat Built literally every single day before going to the gym, before leaving the gym. Why is Zach LaVine on the screen right now,
Because that's how I was looking at you during that read. Like,
what's going on, bro? What's going on right now, bro? And it's so amazing. You won't think that they're good for you. What makes Built Bar and Puff so good? Well, for starters, they're all high in protein, low in sugar, covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. Run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick.
All right, Pat.
You got to get that picture of Zach where he's got like the eyes squinted and the lips poked out. Like, what's going on right now?
Yeah. That's funny. I don't know if you know this or not, but if you post that pic at 11:11 exactly, Ramina magically appears out of nowhere out of thin air.
There's so many jokes we can't say on Locked On.
But with that being said, so we talked about the Bulls potentially making the play-ins and hopefully the playoffs. How do you think that making postseason play this season, that's what we'll label it, how does that really benefit the Chicago Bulls considering the season that we've had?
You get another year of playoff experience. You get another year trying to navigate through it.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to be the hunters in the playoffs, which can make you hungry. And now I think the one thing that has to be understood is that the Bulls should be a better team than where they are. But doesn't change what a lot of these pieces on this team need. Mainly Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine has been in one playoff series in his entire career. Mm-hmm. Zach LaVine was hobbled in that playoff series. Mm-hmm. The confidence to be 100% in a series can build on what a player has an ability to do. And so out of everybody, right, everybody's going to say Pat Will, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, these guys, I don't care. There's an engine right now that does not run without Zach LaVine. Pat Will's a maybe. Maybe one day Pat will be able to be something close to Kawhi Leonard. Maybe. Maybe one day Ayo Dosunmu will be Drew Holiday. Maybe Kobe White will turn into The microwave, maybe. Zach LaVine can play.
He'll probably turn into the fridge before the microwave, but keep going.
Dang, he gonna get fat?
I'm just saying it's more likely.
The fridge played football, bro. Like, what's going on?
It's more likely.
He's gonna turn into a defensive lineman, bro. Like,
with the short arms, yeah, I can see that happening.
He is 6'6". He is 6'6". Wild, by the way, that Kobe White is 6'6" out here, bro. Like, I'm not buying it. They measure that man with hair. Bro. But no, I mean, like, I think the one thing we know is Zach LaVine can play. And so if you're going to put your faith in anything right now, it's the fact that we need Zach LaVine to be the best version of him for the Chicago Bulls to even have a chance at anything. Adding more playoff experience to this while him being 100% healthy, where he wasn't last year, to me, puts you in a better position moving forward. Because one, you'll get to see what he looks like 100% in the playoffs. And two, you'll get to see how the supporting cast around him looks when he's 100% in the playoffs.
And I won't lie to you. I came into this conversation prepared to say that the Bulls going in on a play-in tournament and in the playoffs and a playoff series that they're probably going to get their butts kicked in. I'm like, how much do you really develop in the case like that? How much playoff experience are you really getting? But I love the picture you just painted there because it's a completely different Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine having to put the team on his back and go through that in a playoff series, I think is going to have more growth for Zach individually than maybe certain pieces on this team. And him and us having to go through the play-in tournament. I mean, I know we're only, 2 games back of the 7th seed, but having to do that through a play-in tournament, and then if you come out of that play-in tournament and then go through the attempt to win a series with Zach LaVine clearly being like, nah, I'm the best player. And if he goes to that is a growth in mentality that I think can pay off for Zach LaVine big time. I think it's going to also – I think people forget how good Zach LaVine started off last season with after going on a gold medal run.
Yeah,
I think it puts him in a similar situation. He'll then be able to just focus on his game in an offseason, not have to focus on injury recovery or anything like that. I honestly do think that this run that he's going on now, and you add a play-in run and maybe a playoff run or series, because I don't know if the Bulls can win a series, but in the playoffs, what that means and does for Zach LaVine's development as being a player that now is going to be one of those players like in tough games about, oh no, we finna win this. They're not finna stop me. I'm finna go out here and score 15 points. I think that could be huge for the Bulls, especially when you're still trying to build their identity out. Right now, our identity is Pat Bev. They need to find an identity outside of that sometime this offseason. I think that helps that as well.
Let me ask you this. Would you rather be hunting or the hunted in the play-in tournament? Because I don't think 6 is realistic that the Bulls get to.
The Bulls are going to be the hunted regardless in the play-in, and I think that actually may help them.
Well, what I'll say is, right, like I'm saying, do they finish off 10 or 9, or would you rather them finish off 7?
I mean, I would rather them finish off as high as possible because that means the Bulls went on a run. Do I think it's likely is the bigger question there. And, I mean, there is a chance when you look at it.
2 games back with 15 to go is not impossible.
And every other team right now in that play-in area is on a losing streak. Yep. Every other one is. This is the time for the Bulls to make their move. If they go, and keep in mind, if they do somehow lock in and get the 7th seed, they only got to win 1 game at that point.
Yep.
Otherwise, they'd have to win 2. So, I mean, they could still need to have to win 2 if they do end up losing that first game in the play-in tournament. Yeah. So, I mean, of course, I would rather the Bulls be able to get the 7th seed. Just with the schedule that we have and things like that, I have my doubts. But if we can make that 7th spot, if we can get up to that high before the end of the season, that, of course, is the best for the Bulls. Right now, we got the 9th toughest schedule remaining in the NBA.
I love how that changed, right? Like we went into this because of how teams win and lose. We went into the last 18 games. We were like, we had the 10th easiest. We get through the first 3. It's like, nah, it's tough. So it's just I think this, right? You have an opportunity right now with Zach LaVine on this team to build up a mindset of we have to do more with what we have. And I think that goes down to Zach. I think that goes down to the team as a whole. I think it goes down to Billy. You have to do the most with what you have available right now. We both said this. It feels like AK is trying to build a team that's competitive until he finds his superstar.
A fact.
It feels like that, right? It feels like a Denver Nuggets Paul Millsap team. But you have to try and do the most that you can with what you have right now. And I think Billy Donovan's system might be best predicated on having Zach LaVine just focus on scoring. And I'll turn it to another team that's been going on a heck of a run right now. The Julius Randle we've seen recently is the best Julius Randle we've ever seen in his career.
That's a fact, brother. That is an absolute fact.
And we know he's going left.
Every time. Shout out to Ringo.
Shout out to Ringo, but not that hat. But we know he's going left.
Hashtag, but not that hat.
But not that hat. Ringo trying to hide that hairline, look like Cuba Gooding Jr. Get out of here. But I love you. I love you, Ringo.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, right, like what changed the Julius Randle we're seeing? The fact that he doesn't have to worry about nothing, but I got to outscore the dude on the other side of me. That's what we're seeing from Zach LaVine.
It's a fact.
So if you're going into the playoffs, or if you're going into this final 15, whatever it is, you need to see an organizational change at one position to make the other positions better. And hopefully, right, that translates to DeMar DeRozan. That translates to Vooch. Translates to Patrick Williams, right? Like, hopefully it does. Also, maybe go get some size because I'm sick of seeing Alex Caruso start at the power forward. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's Billy Donovan's new favorite toy right now, bro.
That's terrible. That's trash. That's literal doo-doo water. But hey, as tough as it is, man, hopefully the Bulls come out with a bunch of wins in a row and finish with a winning record. I mean, when do we play again next, bro? We play Wednesday?
We don't play till Wednesday.
Dang, dog.
So last week we only played Wednesday and Saturday. We had 2 games. We still got 3 games this week. We got Wednesday, and then we have a back-to-back Friday and Saturday. So,
all right. Well, we'll see y'all again. No, I'm just playing. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and rock with us. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat The Designer. Win some games, bro. I don't know.
That's what it basically boils down. So you guys can follow me at CEO Haize. That's CEO Haize. And thank you for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go and check out Game to Game NBA. All the latest analysis, game breakdowns, everything in the way that only Locked On can deliver it. You can follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This has been Locked On Bulls, man, and we'll be back tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Peace.